In the harsh Montana territory of 1870, opportunity and desperation arrived on the same dusty trails. Charlotte Winslow, a disgraced Boston socialite turned mail-order bride, refused to marry James Montgomery the moment she discovered he was black, despite months of heartfelt correspondence. Now stranded in Redemption Creek without means to return east, Charlotte must face the consequences of her prejudice as the very man she rejected controls the town's economy and her only chance at survival. Her hasty judgment didn't just cost her a husband, it threatened everything she had left. The train rattled through mountains and prairies for days. Charlotte Winslow's hands trembled as she clutched the leather-bound packet of letters. Her escape from Boston society had led her here, to Montana territory, to a new life. The letters from J. Montgomery had been her salvation. Each page revealed a man of intelligence and sensitivity, a successful rancher who wrote of sunsets over wheat fields and dreams of family, a gentleman who quoted Emerson and discussed the politics of Reconstruction with surprising nuance. Charlotte smoothed her travel-worn dress. The scandal she left behind in Boston would never find her in Redemption Creek. Her family name meant nothing here. Only her future mattered now. The conductor called out the approaching station. Charlotte gathered her modest luggage. She had memorized Montgomery's last letter. I will meet you wearing a black coat with silver buttons. Look for a man holding Walden by Thoreau. Redemption Creek emerged through the window glass. A town carved from wilderness. Wooden structures lined a wide dirt road. Mountains loomed in the distance. Charlotte's heart quickened. The platform bustled with activity as she descended the train steps. Farmers, miners, and traders moved about, their business. Charlotte scanned the crowd for her future husband. A tall figure stood apart from the others. Black coat, silver buttons, book in hand. Charlotte moved toward him with practiced poise. The figure turned. James Montgomery was black. Charlotte stopped. Her smile vanished. This couldn't be right. The man approached with confident strides. His clothes were finely tailored, his expression welcoming. Miss Winslow? His voice matched the eloquence of his letters. Charlotte took an involuntary step backward. People were watching now. She felt heat rise to her face. There must be some mistake, she whispered. Montgomery's eyes registered understanding. Then, pain. Then something harder. He opened the book and recited from their correspondence. When two souls connect through written word, we discover what truly matters lies beneath all surface appearances. He closed the book. Your words, Miss Winslow, from your third letter. Charlotte's mouth opened. No sound emerged. The platform seemed to tilt beneath her feet. The mistake, Miss Winslow, was mine, Montgomery said. His voice remained even, dignified. Believing that words on paper could overcome what people are determined to see. He turned and walked away. The crowd dispersed. Whispers followed. Charlotte stood alone with her luggage as the train pulled away behind her. The station. Master's wife approached, a kind-faced woman with tired eyes. You all right, miss? Charlotte wasn't all right. Her future had vanished. She had no return ticket. No family willing to take her back. No prospects. I don't know what happened, Charlotte managed. The letters never mentioned. That he's colored? The woman's direct gaze held no judgment. James Montgomery is the most respected man in this county. Owns half the businesses here. Helped most folks through last winter's hardships. Charlotte's throat tightened. I need somewhere to stay, just until I can arrange passage back east. That'll take money you don't look to have. The woman sighed. Town needs a teacher, though. Old one left last month. Schoolhouse sits empty. Teaching. Charlotte had done it before, in a Boston charity school. It wasn't what she had traveled west for, but it would mean survival. My name's Martha Jennings, the woman said. You can stay with us while you decide. School board meets tomorrow. Charlotte followed Martha through dusty streets. Children played between buildings. Men nodded respectfully as they passed. A general store displayed Montgomery's name above its entrance. Charlotte averted her eyes. The Jennings home was modest but clean. Martha's husband, Frank, offered quiet courtesy. He worked for the railroad and asked few questions. That night, Charlotte reread Montgomery's letters by lamplight. His words felt different now. She had imagined a different face speaking them, a white face. She set the pages aside and stared at the ceiling. The school board consisted of 5 men gathered in the town's small meeting hall. They quickly approved Charlotte as temporary teacher. The pay was minimal, the accommodations sparse. Schoolhouse needs some repairs, the board president explained. Mr. Montgomery owns the building. He's agreed to fix what's needed. Charlotte swallowed her discomfort. That's very generous. That's Montgomery, another man said. Never holds grudges, even when he has cause. The schoolhouse stood at the edge of town. A single room with rows of benches, windows needing glass, a wood stove for winter months. Charlotte walked its perimeter, planning lessons, imagining children at desks. A wagon approached. 2 workers began unloading, lumber and supplies. They nodded to Charlotte without conversation. Montgomery was nowhere to be seen. He had sent help without coming himself. Children arrived the following Monday. 12 students ranging from 6 to 16 years. They eyed their new teacher with curiosity. Charlotte wrote her name on the blackboard and began. Teaching anchored her days. Charlotte threw herself into lessons. Geography, arithmetic, reading. The children responded to her structured approach. Parents expressed gratitude. Charlotte avoided town when possible. Montgomery's presence loomed everywhere even when he was absent. His name appeared on ledgers. His goods filled store shelves. His generosity supported the church. Nights brought loneliness. Charlotte would remove Montgomery's letters from their hiding place. Read passages that had once filled her with hope. His descriptions of the land around his ranch. His thoughts on building a life together. The words remained beautiful. The sentiments sincere. Only her perception had changed. 1 month into her stay, Charlotte entered the general store for supplies. She had avoided it, knowing Montgomery's connection. Necessity finally drove her inside. The storekeeper tallied her purchases. Your account with the school board covers this. Charlotte stiffened. I'd prefer to pay my own way. Board arranged it with Mr. Montgomery. School supplies come from store credit. Even her independence was an illusion here. Montgomery's influence touched everything. Charlotte left with her parcels, cheeks burning. That afternoon, she overheard older students talking before class. They didn't notice her approach. My pa says that teacher made a fool of Montgomery, a boy said. Turned him down flat when she saw his color. My ma says she's stuck up, a girl added. Says she'll leave first chance she gets. Charlotte cleared her throat. The children scattered to their seats. She began the lesson with tight composure. Inside, something shifted. She had become the subject of town gossip, just as she had been in Boston. That evening, walking back to her lodgings, Charlotte passed Montgomery on the street. Their first encounter since the platform. He tipped his hat politely, said nothing. His eyes held no anger, no judgment, only careful distance. Charlotte managed, a nod before hurrying away. The brief interaction left her unsettled. His dignity made her discomfort more acute. Dark clouds gathered over distant mountains, weather changing with the season, like Charlotte's certainties, like her understanding of the man whose letters she still couldn't bring herself to burn. Autumn settled over Redemption Creek. Charlotte established routines. Rising before dawn, preparing lessons by lamplight, teaching until mid-afternoon, avoiding the town's curious stares. The schoolhouse improved weekly. New glass in windows, repaired roof, fresh paint on weathered boards, all courtesy of Montgomery's resources. His name appeared on invoices but never in person. Charlotte kept ledgers of her earnings, small amounts set aside for eventual passage east. The calculations never balanced. Boston remained a distant dream. Redemption Creek became her reluctant reality. Martha Jennings brought news with morning coffee, town happenings, local disputes. Montgomery's name threaded through every conversation. His ranch supplied beef to 3 counties during last winter's shortage, Martha said. Charged half what others would. Saved families from starving. Charlotte stirred her coffee. How did he acquire his land? Bought it proper. Came west. With education and determination. Built everything from nothing. Martha paused. Man reads more books than anyone I ever met. Like his letters, Charlotte thought. Pages filled with references to literature she recognized. Ideas she respected. The school children brought stories, too. Montgomery had funded the doctor's visit when Tommy Wilson broke his arm. Montgomery had donated lumber for the new church steeple. Montgomery had judged the county fair with absolute fairness, despite competing interests. The man from the letters existed. Just not as Charlotte had imagined. Him. One crisp morning, Charlotte introduced her students to American heroes. Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln. The older boys snickered at the back of the room. Something amusing about President Lincoln? Charlotte asked. A boy named Samuel leaned forward. Pa says Mr. Montgomery thinks too highly of himself. Says he forgets what color he is sometimes. The room went silent. Charlotte set down her chalk. Mr. Montgomery served in the Union Army, she said. The fact had appeared in his letters. He fought for the freedom your father enjoys. While many here were claiming free land he purchased his legally, the word surprised her, defending the man she had rejected. Samuel's face reddened. Furthermore, Charlotte continued, Mr. Montgomery funds this school, your education. That makes him exactly the kind of American worth studying. The classroom remained silent. Charlotte turned back to the board. Her hands trembled slightly, not from anger but recognition. Her hypocrisy stood exposed by her own words. That evening, Charlotte retrieved Montgomery's letters from beneath her mattress, read them by candlelight. The man who wrote these pages and the man she had rejected were the same person. Her judgment had been based on a single glance. His had, formed through months of correspondence, who had shown better character. The following day brought storm clouds. Wind rattled windows. Students huddled near the stove. Charlotte dismissed them early as thunder cracked overhead. She remained behind, securing windows against the coming deluge. Rain began. Light at first, then violent. Water found paths through the newly repaired roof. Charlotte placed buckets beneath leaks. The storm intensified. A crack like cannon fire split the air. Charlotte looked up as a section of ceiling gave way. She barely moved in time. Debris crashed where she had stood. Water poured through the opening. Charlotte gathered her belongings and fled into the storm. The Jennings house was dark when she arrived. A note explained their absence. Family emergency in the next county, back in a week. Charlotte entered her room to find rain pouring through the ceiling there too. The town meeting hall served as emergency shelter. Charlotte arrived drenched and shivering. Other displaced residents gathered inside. The mayor addressed the crowd. Storms damaged half the buildings in town. Rivers rising too. Montgomery Ranch has opened its doors to those needing shelter. Wagons leave in 30 minutes. Charlotte froze. The ranch. Montgomery himself. The thought made her stomach tighten. School's taken significant damage, the mayor continued, looking directly at Charlotte. Mr. Montgomery offers temporary lodging in his guest quarters. School board accepts his offer. Her fate decided without consultation. Charlotte clutched her salvage belongings tighter. Pride warred with practicality. The storm provided no alternatives. The wagon ride passed in uncomfortable silence. Rain pelted the canvas cover. Other passengers avoided her gaze. Her rejection of Montgomery remained common knowledge. Her presence in his home would create fresh gossip. The ranch appeared through rain-swept darkness. Larger than Charlotte had imagined. Main house built of sturdy timber. Outbuildings forming a protective perimeter. Lanterns glowed in windows. a haven against the storm's fury. Workers directed arrivals to various accommodations. Most families went to the converted barn. Charlotte was led to a small cabin near the main house. Guest quarters, they explained. Teacher's privilege. The cabin was simple, but comfortable. Wooden floors swept clean, iron stove radiating heat, shelf lined with books. Charlotte recognized titles from Montgomery's letters: Emerson, Thoreau, Whitman. A housekeeper brought clean towels and a tray of food. No sign of Montgomery himself. His absence felt deliberate, respectful distance or lingering hurt. Charlotte couldn't determine which. Morning brought clear skies. Charlotte ventured outside. The ranch spread before her, acres of cultivated land, cattle in distant pastures, workers moving with purpose between buildings. Montgomery emerged from the main house, dressed for work in practical clothes, still carrying himself with the dignity she remembered. He noticed her but made no approach, merely nodded acknowledgement before continuing to the stables. The ranch operated like a small town, everyone with assigned duties. Meals served communally for workers. Montgomery ate with them. Charlotte observed from distance. He listened more, then spoke, laughed genuinely at jokes, resolved disputes with quiet authority. The man from the letters walked among them. Days passed. Charlotte established a makeshift classroom for displaced children. The ranch's storage room became a temporary school. Montgomery provided supplies without comment. Charlotte watched him, from windows, working alongside ranch hands, reading on his porch in evening light, conferring with foremen about operations. Every observation aligned with the character revealed in his correspondence. 1 week into her stay, Charlotte encountered Montgomery in the small ranch library, their first proximity since the meeting on Redemption Creek's street. He selected a book from shelves, acknowledged her presence with a nod, made to leave. "The damage to the school," Charlotte said, stopping him. "How extensive?" Montgomery turned. His expression revealed nothing. "Roof collapsed in 2 sections. Water damage to most materials. Repairs will take weeks. I appreciate your hospitality." The words felt insufficient. The children need education. Montgomery's tone remained professional. "Your history lesson about American heroes was quite instructive from what I hear." He knew she had defended him. Charlotte's cheeks warmed. "The school board will meet next week to discuss rebuilding," Montgomery continued. "They're welcome to use the ranch for their meeting, as are you for continuing lessons." With that, he departed. Left Charlotte among books they had once discussed in letters. The conversation had been their longest since her arrival in Redemption Creek. His politeness made her awareness of her own actions more acute. That night, a powerful storm struck again. Wind howled, rain lashed buildings. Charlotte stood at her cabin window watching nature's fury. In the distance, Montgomery and his workers secured livestock, fought against elements, protected what they had built. Lightning illuminated the scene in harsh flashes. Men struggling against wind and water, Montgomery working alongside them. No privilege of position, no shelter from the storm's judgment. Charlotte watched until they finished. Until the animals were secure. Until Montgomery, drenched and exhausted, returned to the main house. Something shifted in her understanding, not just of him, but of herself. The storm outside matched her internal tumult, barriers breaking, assumptions washing away, truths exposed by nature's indifferent force. 2 weeks stretched into a month. Charlotte watched the ranch through changing light. Dawn revealed Montgomery inspecting fields with his foreman. Noon found him negotiating with cattle buyers. Dusk showed him reviewing ledgers on his porch. Always working, always building. Her temporary classroom filled with children each morning. Displaced families had returned to town. Their children remained for lessons at the ranch. Montgomery had arranged wagons for their transportation. Education continued despite circumstances. Charlotte assigned a project about letter writing. The irony wasn't lost on her. Students drafted correspondence to imaginary recipients. She guided their efforts without revealing her own experience with the power of written words. Distance between Charlotte and Montgomery remained carefully maintained. They passed each other with civil nods, exchanged necessary information about school matters, never ventured beyond practicalities. The ranch hands treated Charlotte with cautious respect, not for her position as teacher, she realized, for her connection to Montgomery. They had witnessed his rejection, witnessed his dignity afterward. Their loyalty wasn't blind obedience to an employer. It was earned regard for a man who treated them as equals. Charlotte completed her letter writing lesson with a final assignment. Students would read their best work aloud. Parents were invited. Montgomery, too, as proprietor of their temporary school. The evening of the presentation arrived. Families gathered in the converted storage room. Montgomery entered last, stood at the back, arms crossed, face impassive. Students presented their letters one by one. Charlotte watched Montgomery's reactions. He nodded appreciatively at clever phrases, smiled at humorous passages. His responses matched those in his letters to her. Thoughtful, engaged, genuine. The final student finished. Applause filled the room. Charlotte rose to thank the parents for attending. Her prepared words vanished when she met Montgomery's gaze across the room. Something unspoken passed between them. Acknowledgement of shared understanding. Letters had brought them together once. Letters had revealed truth. The power of written words extends beyond paper, Charlotte said, breaking her gaze from his. They reveal character, intent, truth. Tonight's exercise demonstrates that skillfully. The gathering dispersed. Montgomery remained. Charlotte gathered student papers with deliberate focus. The room emptied until only they remained. Your teaching has improved their writing, Montgomery said. His voice carried no emotion she could identify. Thank you. Charlotte stacked papers carefully. The assignment was meaningful to me. Montgomery stepped forward, placed an envelope on her desk. The school building repairs begin tomorrow. The board approved funds this morning. Charlotte nodded. Practical matters. Safe territory. You've made an impression on the children, Montgomery added. They speak highly of your methods. Children are honest judges of character. The words carried unintended weight. Montgomery's expression shifted slightly, almost imperceptible. Yes, they are. He turned to leave, paused at the doorway. The letters you received before arriving, were they honest reflections of character? The question hung between them. Charlotte's throat tightened. Every word. Her voice barely carried across the room. Montgomery nodded once, left without further comment. Charlotte remained motionless. The conversation had been their most personal since her arrival. The question revealed wounds still unhealed. 3 days later, riders arrived at the ranch. 5 men, led by a square-jawed figure named Harlan. Charlotte observed their arrival from her classroom window. Their posture suggested confrontation rather than business. Montgomery met them in the yard, back straight, hands relaxed at his sides. The men remained mounted, looking down at him. A deliberate choice. Charlotte dismissed her students early. The confrontation outside warranted caution. Children ran toward waiting wagons as Charlotte lingered near the main house. Voices carried across the yard. Harlan's tone aggressive. Montgomery's measured in response. Territory's changing, Montgomery. New settlement laws coming. My deeds are registered and legal, purchased fairly. Folks questioning whether your kind should hold this much land. Questioning your influence in Redemption Creek. Charlotte edged closer, positioned herself behind a storage shed, close enough to hear clearly. My kind fought for this country, Montgomery replied. My kind built this territory alongside everyone else. Harlan leaned forward in his saddle. Even your mail-order bride rejected you. Shows what decent folk think of your position. Charlotte's breath caught. Her rejection weaponized against him. Her prejudice made public tool. Heat rose to her face. Miss Winslow made her choice, Montgomery said. His voice betrayed no emotion. as is her right. That has nothing to do with my legal claim to this land. Everything to do with it, Harlan countered. Shows you don't belong. Never will. Town meeting next week. County commissioner attending. Land rights being reviewed. The riders departed in a cloud of dust. Montgomery remained motionless, watching them leave. Only when they disappeared did his shoulders drop slightly. A private moment of weariness he allowed no one to witness. Charlotte retreated to her cabin. Shame burned beneath her skin. Her actions had consequences beyond personal rejection. They provided ammunition for men like Harlan, men looking for excuses to take what Montgomery had rightfully earned. The town meeting was scheduled for the following Wednesday. Charlotte returned to Redemption Creek 2 days prior. The schoolhouse repairs had progressed enough to resume classes there. Her time at the ranch ended without formal farewell. Montgomery had been absent the morning of her departure. Redemption Creek buzzed with tension. Harlan's group had spread rumors throughout the county, claims about Montgomery's land rights, questions about his influence, whispers about Charlotte's rejection and what it signified. Charlotte's temporary lodgings had been secured near the rebuilt schoolhouse. She avoided public gatherings, focused on resuming normal lessons. The children seemed affected by the town's mood. Conversations stopped when she approached. Parents collected their children with tight expressions. The evening before the town meeting, Charlotte visited the local records office. The clerk knew her purpose without asking, provided land deeds without comment. Charlotte examined each document carefully. Montgomery's holdings had been legally acquired, properly registered, every acre paid for in full, some purchased from the government, others from settlers moving on, all legitimate. The meeting hall filled beyond capacity that Wednesday evening. Charlotte slipped in late, positioned herself near the back wall. Montgomery sat in the front row, back straight, hands folded in his lap. Harlan and his supporters occupied one side of the room. Town officials and the visiting county commissioner sat at a table facing the crowd. The commissioner called the meeting to order, explained its purpose, review of land claims in the county, clarification of ownership rights. A formality, he insisted, nothing to concern legitimate landholders. Harlan rose first, presented his argument against Montgomery's holdings. Too much land concentrated in one man's hands. Questions about citizenship, status, insinuations about methods of acquisition. Each point delivered with practiced conviction. Montgomery listened without visible reaction. When his turn came, he approached the officials' table with quiet dignity, presented his deeds, explained each acquisition methodically. His voice maintained, even composure. His arguments logical and sound. The meeting shifted toward murmured debate. The commissioner reviewed documents. Harlan interjected repeatedly. Montgomery answered each challenge with factual responses. Then Harlan played his final card. Even his mail-order bride rejected him on sight, he announced to the crowded room. Miss Winslow, they knew instantly what we all know. Some men aren't meant for certain positions in society. All eyes turned toward Charlotte, her presence now acknowledged, her rejection made public spectacle. Montgomery didn't look back. His posture remained rigid, facing forward. Charlotte's heart hammered against her ribs. She could remain silent, could slip away unnoticed, could avoid further involvement in Montgomery's affairs, or she could stand. Charlotte rose from her seat. The movement rippled through the assembled crowd. She moved forward through parting onlookers. Each step echoed in the suddenly silent room. She stopped beside Montgomery, not looking at him, facing the officials, facing Harlan. My rejection of Mr. Montgomery upon arrival was not a judgment of his character, Charlotte said. Her voice carried clearly through the room. It was evidence of my own failing, my own prejudice. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Charlotte continued. I knew James Montgomery through his letters before meeting him. Those letters revealed intelligence, integrity, and honor. Nothing in his character has contradicted those impressions since my arrival. Charlotte withdrew folded papers from her pocket, Montgomery's letters. She had kept them all. I will not read personal correspondence publicly, but I will state that any man who treats rejection with the dignity Mr. Montgomery displayed deserves better than to have that private moment used against him. Charlotte turned toward Harlan, met his gaze directly. My ignorance should not become your weapon. The room remained silent. Charlotte stepped back, still not looking at Montgomery. His eyes burned against her profile. The commissioner cleared his throat. Land deeds appear in order, he announced. No legal basis for review of ownership. The meeting concluded shortly afterward. Charlotte slipped out before being approached, returned to her lodgings with quick steps, heart still racing from her public declaration. She had defended Montgomery, not just his land rights, his character, his worth as a man, the very thing she had once denied with her rejection. Morning brought a knock at her door. Charlotte opened it expecting a parent or student. Montgomery stood on her threshold, hat in hand, eyes meeting hers directly for the first time since that day on the train platform. Thank you, he said simply. No elaboration needed. They both understood what for. Charlotte nodded. Words seemed inadequate against the weight of everything between them. The school board meets tomorrow, Montgomery continued, to discuss permanent repairs. Your input would be valuable. An olive branch, a professional connection where personal ones had been severed. Charlotte accepted with a nod. Montgomery replaced his hat, turned to leave, paused briefly. Your words last night, he said without turning back. They mattered. He walked away. Charlotte watched his retreating figure. Something had shifted between them. Not forgiveness exactly. Not yet. But acknowledgement of truths they both recognized. The man from the letters and the man before her were one and the same. Winter settled over Redemption Creek. Snow blanketed the schoolhouse roof. Smoke curled from the repaired chimney. Inside, Charlotte moved. Between rows of students, their breath visible in morning air until the stove warmed the room. The vandalism happened overnight. Charlotte discovered it at dawn. Crude words carved into the schoolhouse door. Threatening phrases painted across front steps. Warnings about teaching certain values. About defending certain people. Charlotte scrubbed at the paint before students arrived. The words remained visible beneath her efforts. A scar on the wood like the prejudice that inspired it. Montgomery's workers appeared without being summoned. 4 men with tools and fresh lumber. They removed the damaged door, replaced it by mid-morning, repainted the steps, nodded to Charlotte without requiring thanks. The children whispered about the incident. Charlotte redirected their attention to lessons. Inside, anger simmered beneath her composed exterior. The vandalism wasn't random. It was retaliation for her defense of Montgomery at the town meeting. That afternoon, a rock shattered the schoolhouse window. Charlotte rushed outside, caught glimpse of retreating figures, Harlan's men, she was certain. The students huddled wide-eyed against the far wall. Charlotte swept glass with steady hands, covered the opening with canvas until repairs could be made. Montgomery arrived as classes ended, examined the damage without comment. His expression revealed nothing. His presence said everything. This involves me now, Charlotte said. The words hung between them. Montgomery nodded once. I never wanted that. I made that choice myself. Charlotte gathered scattered books. At the town meeting. Harlan seeks any excuse. Montgomery's voice remained even. Your defense provided new motivation. Charlotte faced him directly. I spoke truth. Montgomery held her gaze. Something shifted in his expression. Recognition. Respect. The wall between them cracked slightly. Truth has consequences in places like this, he said finally. The words carried no self-pity, just acknowledgement of reality he had faced his entire life. Charlotte understood suddenly how small her single moment of public targeting compared to his daily experience. The territorial hearing is next week, Montgomery continued. Harlan filed formal challenge to my land claims. County records inadequate for his purposes. He seeks higher intervention. Charlotte thought of the deeds she had examined. Your documents are legitimate. Legitimacy requires recognition. Montgomery adjusted his hat. Recognition requires witnesses willing to speak. The request remained unspoken. Charlotte understood anyway. I reviewed the records, she offered. Every purchase documented properly. Montgomery nodded. His expression softened slightly. Evidence matters, so does who presents it. He departed without further explanation, left Charlotte understanding her role. Harlan had used her rejection as weapon. Now her support could serve as shield, not because of any particular influence she possessed, because she represented something to the territorial officials. Respectability, Eastern refinement, whiteness. The recognition sickened her. That night Charlotte wrote a letter, not to Montgomery, to herself, words she needed to acknowledge, her initial prejudice, her gradual understanding, her recognition of the man she had rejected. When finished, she sealed it in an envelope, added it to the packet containing Montgomery's correspondence. Some truths required documentation. Montgomery's ranch continued operations despite Harlan's threats. Cattle still needed tending. Crops required harvest. Charlotte observed this resilience from town, life continuing despite forces aligned against it. The vandalism escalated. School, supplies disappeared. Charlotte's personal belongings were disturbed during her absence. Nothing taken. Just moved. A message. You are not safe. Montgomery's workers appeared each time. Resecured her door. Reinforced window locks. Established silent guardianship without intruding on her independence. 3 days before the territorial hearing, Charlotte visited the ranch. Official purpose, discussing school board matters. Actual reason, coordination for the upcoming legal battle. Montgomery received her in his study. Professional distance maintained. The room reflected his letters. Books lined shelves. Maps covered walls. Order amidst frontier chaos. They reviewed documentation together. Land deeds, purchase records, tax payments. Every transaction meticulously recorded. Evidence of legitimacy developed over years of anticipating challenges. Harlan claims special. Territorial rules apply to land ownership, Montgomery explained. Attempting legal maneuver to invalidate purchase deeds. Charlotte examined the territorial statutes Montgomery provided. These laws contain no such restrictions. Interpretation matters more than actual text. Montgomery's tone remained matter of fact. Harlan counts on sympathetic officials. Charlotte understood the underlying meaning. Justice depended on who administered it. Montgomery had prepared for this reality his entire life. The hearing was scheduled for the county seat. 1 day's journey from Redemption Creek. Charlotte arranged substitute teacher coverage, packed modest traveling bag, prepared to testify if needed. Montgomery provided transportation, a covered wagon for the journey, professional courtesy rather than personal consideration. Charlotte accepted with matching formality. Their relationship remained carefully bounded by unspoken rules. The journey passed mostly in silence, practical conversation when necessary, weather observations, road conditions, nothing venturing toward personal territory. Yet something had changed since the ITU town meeting, a barrier lowered, not removed entirely, just less insurmountable than before. They arrived at the county seat by evening, a town larger than Redemption Creek, buildings of brick rather than wood. Montgomery secured separate accommodations. Charlotte at the hotel, himself at livery, stable lodgings. The arrangement raised no eyebrows here where they remained unknown. Morning brought the hearing. The territorial courthouse stood impressive amid frontier structures. Stone facade, formal columns, attempt at Eastern dignity in Western wilderness. Inside, officials gathered at raised platform. Territorial judge presided. Land commissioners flanked him. Clerks prepared documents. The proceedings carried formal weight beyond town meeting debates. Harlan arrived with supporters. Occupied benches on courtroom's left side. Nodded confidently to officials. Charlotte recognized the performance of assumed belonging. The certainty that systems existed to serve men like him. Montgomery entered alone. Straight-backed, properly attired, documents tucked under arm. He claimed bench on courtroom's right. Charlotte sat nearby but separate, close enough to show support, distant enough to maintain independence. The judge called proceedings to order, explained purpose with formal language, land claim dispute, territorial review, final determination binding on all parties. Harlan presented his case first, challenged Montgomery's right to extensive holdings, cited obscure territorial provisions, questioned legitimacy of county records. His presentation mixed legal terminology with veiled references to Montgomery's unsuitability for significant land ownership. Montgomery listened without visible reaction. When his turn came, he approached the bench with quiet dignity, presented each deed methodically, explained acquisition history, demonstrated tax payments. His voice remained steady, his arguments precise. The judge examined documents with practiced neutrality, asked clarifying questions, requested specific evidence. The proceedings continued with formal detachment until Harlan introduced new argument. Character determines legitimate claim, Harlan declared. Community standards matter in territorial decisions. With that opening, Harlan recounted Charlotte's rejection, presented it as evidence of Montgomery's failure to meet community standards. Charlotte's hands tightened in her lap, her private decision weaponized in public forum. Miss Winslow sits before you, Harlan continued. Ask her directly about her assessment of this man's character. The judge turned toward Charlotte. Miss Winslow, do you wish to provide testimony? Charlotte rose slowly, moved forward with measured steps. The courtroom watched her approach. Montgomery remained expressionless. Only his knuckles whitened slightly where his hands rested on the table before him. Charlotte faced the officials. I reviewed Mr. Montgomery's land records personally, each transaction properly documented, each purchase legally executed. And regarding his character? The judge prompted. Charlotte met his gaze directly. I know James Montgomery through two sources: his letters before our meeting, his actions afterward. She withdrew papers from her bag. Montgomery's correspondence and her own recent letter, placed them on the bench. These letters revealed a man of intelligence, integrity, and vision. Nothing in his conduct since has contradicted that assessment. Charlotte did not look at Montgomery as she spoke, kept focus on the officials. My initial rejection upon seeing him reflected my prejudice, not his character. I have since observed him treating others with fairness, building community, improving lives regardless of station. She indicated the documents. The legal records prove his right to his land. His daily actions prove his right to respect. Harlan rose in objection. This woman teaches in a school Montgomery owns. Her testimony is compromised. I arrived in Redemption Creek prejudiced against Mr. Montgomery, Charlotte countered. I rejected him publicly. If bias exists in my assessment, it would logically work against him. Yet facts remain facts. His claims are legitimate. His character, unimpeachable. The courtroom fell silent. The judge reviewed documents once more, conferred briefly with commissioners. His decision came with formal declaration. Land claims presented by James Montgomery are found valid under territorial law. All deeds remain in force. Case dismissed. Harlan protested loudly. The judge silenced him with practiced authority. The ruling stood. Montgomery gathered his documents without celebration. Victory acknowledged with same dignity that had faced potential defeat. Outside the courthouse, tension lingered. Harlan and supporters blocked the street. Montgomery faced them without comment. Charlotte stood nearby, the confrontation balanced on knife edge of potential violence. The territorial marshal emerged from courthouse. stood beside Montgomery without word, law indicating its position. Harlan's group dispersed gradually, threats muttered rather than enacted. Charlotte and Montgomery returned to their wagon in silence. The journey back to Redemption Creek began as sunset painted Montana sky in victory colors. Neither mentioned the hearing directly. The outcome spoke for itself. Miles from town, Montgomery finally spoke. "Your testimony was unexpected." Charlotte adjusted her shawl against evening chill. "It was truthful. Truth is rare gift." Montgomery focused on distant horizon. Rarer still when it costs the giver. Charlotte understood his meaning. Her public alignment with him carried consequences, changed her position in community eyes, created new barriers where she had once enjoyed automatic acceptance. "Some price is worth paying," she answered simply. They reached Redemption Creek after nightfall. The town slept peacefully, unaware of distant legal battles fought over its future. Montgomery escorted Charlotte to her lodgings, remained mounted on wagon seat, hat in hand, formal distance maintained even in gratitude. "Thank you," he said finally. Charlotte nodded acknowledgement, words inadequate for what had transpired between them. 2 weeks later, letter arrived from Boston. Charlotte recognized handwriting immediately. Former headmistress offering teaching position, prestigious girls' school, salary beyond frontier expectations. Opportunity to return east. Opportunity to leave Redemption Creek behind. Charlotte read the letter repeatedly. The chance she had been saving for since arrival now manifested in crisp Eastern penmanship. Escape from frontier hardships. Return to civilization. Yet something had changed within her. The Boston described in flowing script no longer represented home. The letter remained unanswered for days. Charlotte taught her classes, watched spring slowly claiming Montana landscape, observed Montgomery from distance as he implemented improvements to his ranch. New irrigation systems, expanded fields, buildings, under construction. Among them, Charlotte noticed new structure taking shape near ranch boundary closest to town. Larger than previous buildings, framework suggesting school dimensions, a project unmentioned during their interactions. Decision crystallized within her. Charlotte drafted response to Boston offer, polite refusal, commitment to current position, then composed second letter, addressed to Montgomery, words chosen carefully, acknowledging past errors, expressing regret for initial rejection, offering friendship if not forgiveness. The letter remained unsealed. Words seemed inadequate against weight of their shared history. Direct conversation offered only path forward. Montgomery answered his door personally. Expression registered, surprise at Charlotte's unexpected arrival. She presented Boston letter first. Explanation of opportunity declined. Montgomery read it with careful neutrality. "Significant opportunity," he observed. "Why refuse?" "Redemption Creek has become home," Charlotte answered simply. Montgomery studied her face, searching for deeper meaning behind her words. "I saw the new building," Charlotte continued. "School dimensions. Expanded educational facility," Montgomery confirmed. "Community growing. Children deserve proper learning environment. You'll need qualified teacher." The statement hung between them. Question and answer combined. Montgomery's expression softened slightly. "Position available to current schoolmistress," he said. "If interested." Charlotte removed final letter from pocket. Her written apology, her expression of regret, placed it unopened on table between them. "Words failed us once," she said quietly. "Actions speak more clearly." Montgomery glanced at unopened letter, understanding its purpose without reading its contents. His posture relaxed slightly. First barrier truly lowered between them. "New beginnings require foundation," he observed. "Built on truth," Charlotte added, "not assumptions." Montgomery extended his hand formally. Charlotte accepted. Brief contact that acknowledged new understanding. Professional arrangement. Potential friendship. future unwritten but no longer predetermined by past misconceptions. School board meets tomorrow, Montgomery said. Teachers' input welcome regarding new facility. Charlotte nodded acceptance. I'll bring plans. She departed without further words. The unsent letter remained on Montgomery's table. Some communications required no reading. Understanding came in choices made, prejudices abandoned, truth recognized. Outside Montana spring brought green life to winter-browned landscape, new growth emerging from hardened ground. Charlotte walked toward town with lighter steps, path forward visible now. Not romantic fantasy from mail-order advertisements, not escape to Eastern refinement, but purpose found in community built on respect rather than appearance. Behind her, Montgomery's ranch spread across valley, evidence of vision made real through persistence. Before her, Redemption Creek awaited with challenges still unresolved. Between them stood Charlotte herself, changed by frontier experience, by rejection's consequences, by recognition of character beyond surface judgment. The letters that had brought her west remained. Physical reminder of connection formed through words. Truth revealed through correspondence first, through actions afterward, through choices that defined character more clearly than appearance ever could. And that is all to the story, for now. Please let me know where you are tuning in from. Perhaps we will create a story there. Consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. It helps motivate me write each story. See you tomorrow.